Let's now talk about the college football bracket. And the playoffs begin on Friday. I'm your host, Greg DePalma. Thanks for tuning in here to Proline TV. We are live on our coverage here on Tuesday evening at 9/11 Eastern. If you want to check out the Bowl Part 1 preview, you can check that out. For anybody that is watching on demand, you can check it out. We have that show that's in the library and links in the description as well, because we have interviews last week and this week with Gary Furman of Canesport.com for the Miami Hurricanes point of view, and Owen Buchanan from TexAgs.com from the Texas A&M point of view. So I was real fortunate to be able to get both guys for just the one game and first round of college football action that is clearly going to be the best game and the most entertaining. And so that was a lot of fun. So yeah, check that out. All right, now let's go to game number one, because we're going to break down these first games. Then we're going to go over our bracket predictions. So let's take a look at game one. Let me pop up the line. I believe the line is still somewhere about 1.5. Yep, Alabama at 1.5 here. And I don't think that's going to change. I think Alabama will stay a favorite. I wouldn't even be surprised if the line moved up a little bit more before game time. It was what, a month ago? We sat here and we talked about the Alabama-Oklahoma game. And it was in Alabama. And we talked about how, I think the line, what was the line in that game? It was 6. So Alabama was favored by 6. And we talked about how the game only 6 in Alabama at that point, because let me make sure where they were, because Bama started to slide towards the end of the season, and it started a few weeks earlier, right after the Tennessee win. That was like their last impressive win of the season. You got to go all the way back to October 18th. Okay, so from September 6th, from their 73-0 win over that same Louisiana Monroe team I just mentioned, from September 6th all the way to October 18th against Tennessee, when they won by 17 points against Tennessee. During that stretch, and of course those were all wins, that was the best of Alabama football this year. Then the slide started the very next week at South Carolina. As a 12-point favorite, they came back. They trailed by 7 with 3 minutes to go at South Carolina. Okay, you don't hear the committee talking about that. Oh, they just want to talk about how they were a 17-0 lead against Auburn and how impressive that was. How impressive was it to be down by 7 with 3 minutes to go at South Carolina then? Okay, they were able to come back and win the game, of course, in regulation. That was this first sign of things not doing too well, because they played LSU after the bye and they only scored 20 points. They win the game 20-9. They barely covered. They only had 56 yards rushing in the game. The very next week was this game, the game against Oklahoma. And even though they had a big advantage, yards advantage, they had a advantage of 406 to 212. They lost the game. Okay, they lost the game, right? So now, and again, when we went into it, what we're starting off with was they had already showed signs that, I don't know. You know, that LSU game was a big one, because that was one of my top plays of the week, because I still felt that, all right, no, I'm willing to give you one, game to South Carolina. I'm willing to give you that. But hey, this has been a really good run. They're already talking about, I think they were top 5 at the time, already talking about they've got a national championship type team. And then this game came and we looked at it. We said, well, the one thing that we're concerned about is this could be a bad matchup, because Oklahoma plays great defense and Alabama can't play football from both sides. They can't throw and run. They do not have balance on offense. They can throw the ball. They can't run the ball. Matter of fact, where are Let me see exactly. Let me pop up. Let me see. Let me find out exactly where Alabama is in rushing offense. It's got to be like way down here. Where's Alabama? Look at that. 117th nationally in rushing offense. Alabama. You know the tremendous runners that this team has had? Now, one of them transferred to Michigan, Justice Haynes. And what a big help he would have been, but he got hurt anyway. I don't know if he would have got hurt if he was playing for Alabama. But the fact is that this is still Alabama. You don't have someone else behind Justice Haynes? So that's where they are. Okay, so that's their rushing offense. Now, where's rushing defense for Oklahoma? 5. So last year, when they beat them 24-3 at home, they were a 14-point home dog. Okay. They held Alabama to 2.3 yards rushing and 2.4 yards rushing in both games, because in the game this year, they were a 6-point road dog, as I mentioned. They win the game by 2. And that's the big problem, is Alabama cannot run against Oklahoma. They can't run against anybody, basically. And now with Oklahoma, it's, you know what they're just going to do? They just need to run just to show that we can't throw the ball and you can't just pin your ears and come after us. But you would think that Venables has had a lot of time now to prepare. And he's one of the best defensive minds in college football. There's no doubt about that. We just don't know what kind of a head coach he is. That's still up to debate. But we know he can coach defense. And the fact that he knows he's done it, he's shut this team down. Does he go right back and just, hey, we're going to stick with the same plan, and that's it because we won both games, or is he going to look back at the game from last month where they were 2-1 down in yards and say, you know what? We're so dominant against this team, and this team can't run the ball against anybody. Maybe if there's a linebacker that is more of a run defender, and we've got another linebacker that's more of a pass defender, maybe we should switch those guys out. And my point is that maybe we should do something where we throw a little bit more on the passing side and not worry too much about the running game. And because if you know they can't run the ball against you, because they can't, then you've got to do everything in the world to stop the passing game. And they have one of the better, of course, Alabama has one of the better young quarterback prospects. Might even be the second quarterback chosen in the draft. But still, this is not. Matter of fact, let's take a look. Where's Alabama? Where's their passing offense? Let's see. It's got to be pretty good, especially as bad as their rushing offense is. All right, 23rd. So the 23rd. Let's take a look at the numbers with Simpson overall. 7.6, nice ratio, 26-5. So he's throwing 251 a game. Okay. So if you can limit that, and see, this is my point. So he's at 251 a game. Now let's take a look at let's go back to the passing offense. Okay. So where were they again? Alabama was 23. Okay. So now let's see, of course we know Mr. Maker in North Texas. Here, Ole Miss, playoff team. So Ole Miss is third nationally. They are third nationally at 309 a game. Almost 60 yards more. So that's my problem here, is that even though we know Alabama has got a good young quarterback and that's the side that works for them, they're not that proficient in the passing game. It's not like they're so good in the passing game. We're okay. We get by. We don't need the running game. No, they're again, good young quarterback. They got some weapons. but they're only at 250 a game. So if you're Oklahoma, you just got to find a way to, hey, let's knock the 250 down to 220. And I don't think we're going to lose much in the running game. And then it's up to it's up to Washington State's transfer quarterback, John Mateer, in order to get them going offensively. Now, the good news for Mateer in his last start was that he passed for more yardage than he has had than any other game this year except one. 318 yards passing against LSU. A very good team, defensive team. Problem is he threw 3 interceptions in the game, but he did have 2 touchdown passes. Now, I don't know if all 3 were the bad variety. I don't have the information here. I don't know if one was a Hail Mary at the end of the half, that sort of thing. But Oklahoma won the game. It was a very close game. They had to hold LSU in the last drive. That was a game they could have lost. Look, I don't think Oklahoma should be in the playoffs. Okay? I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that Notre Dame is a better team than Oklahoma. But it is what it is. And I say that because I'm taking Oklahoma. And this is what I talk about all the time. You know, we talk about this in college basketball as well. And the same thing in college football. You can have your debates as far as whether you think a team deserves to be in or not and all that stuff. And that's a debate. But once that debate's gone and you now go into, okay, the team's in. I didn't think that they should have been in, but they are. Okay. Now let's talk about the matchup. Well, I'm not going to just, I'm going against them because I didn't think they deserved to be here. Heck, I didn't think Alabama deserved to be here either. And if I was going to pick one of the 2 teams to be here, it would be Oklahoma. So I don't think Alabama should be here. So if you're picking one, so yeah, I would have Notre Dame in and Alabama out and Oklahoma in. But I would probably rather see Vanderbilt or Texas in than Oklahoma, especially since Texas beat Oklahoma. But it is what it is. And now we're in a game of 2 teams that I don't think in this match, look, if you're Indiana, they're the number 1 team, the number 1 seed. You were put in a position that I think is the best position that you should put in, which I think it should be. Now, look, Ohio State's not in a good position. They're the 2nd seed, and look who they get to play. If you're the 2nd seed, you're like, well, wait a second. What if there's an upset one of these 2 games here? Why aren't we here? Why aren't we here? No Kiffin. Why do we get Texas A&M Miami winner? So Indiana, though, they're in a good position. They got 2 teams that have big warts. Okay, now saying that, again, like I said, well, that's that. Now it's a new season. What do we like here? And the reason, some of the reasons I like Oklahoma, and I just told you some of it. I think it's just a one-sided Alabama offense. Everything is going to be about the passing game. They can't run the ball. Alabama is not going to sniff a national championship this year. They don't have any balance at all, and they do not have a elite defense, and they do not have a prolific passing attack. And that's what you need if you have no running game. You have to be elite in something else. They are not. So because of that, will they get past Oklahoma? Sure they could. They're a favorite. Can they get past Indiana? I don't see it. I think Oklahoma can get past Indiana, though. And the reason I think Oklahoma can get past Indiana is, look, if I'm Indiana, I don't want Oklahoma. Because, again, if you're Indiana, you got a really good defense, too. Then you're in the same situation. All right, one-dimensional team, and we can handle that. With Oklahoma, though, the reason why I'm taking them, first of all, they're at home. They've beaten this team twice in the last, 12 months, something like that. They just beat them on the road a few weeks ago. And as I was saying when I was going over the game a month ago, this could be a bad matchup for Alabama because of that, because they can't run the ball, and Oklahoma is a very good defense. So we saw what happened last week with Georgia, 2 weeks ago with Georgia. Georgia is really, if you look at Georgia, they're like a team defensively that they are I think it is their, let me see where their pass defense is. Georgia's pass defense, how far down is it? I don't know if it's this far down or not. Let's see. There it is, 48. Okay, that's not very good. That is not good. Like a national, because again, this is still the passing era of football. So yeah, that's not good. Now they're good against the run, but not so good against the pass. And even though that's the case, okay, so you look at their rush defense, 4th. So you knew Alabama was going to run the football last week, but hey, maybe that we could take advantage of Georgia's pass defense because that's the weak spot for Georgia, and they couldn't do it. And I think look, I don't know if the Kalen DeBoer stuff is an issue. And now there's already people, oh, well, the Michigan job's open now. And no matter what Kalen DeBoer says, and he said it again the other day, I'm not going anywhere. I like it here. I do believe him. But I think what people see, this is the problem, is that unless Michigan hires a head coach before the Alabama game on Friday, there is still doubt. And it's still an issue hanging over the team. And that's a distraction. Now, I don't think I'm not saying that that's the reason I'm taking Oklahoma. I'm just saying it's a potential distraction. And it's one of those things where when you're trying to figure out what happened to Alabama after they were a top 5 team for a good part of the season, what happened to them at the end of the season? And you have to come up with some reasons, like what was it? Well, I don't understand. And so I think there are a variety of things. There are sort of several factors, and I think towards as we got closer to the end of the season, and there was some coaching room because James Franklin was fired, and there was and right off the bat. And we talked about it on this channel with our Penn State guys, Marty and Dylan. Give us the top 3 guys that will be potential Penn State head coaches. Kalen DeBoer was one of them. So right there. And let me see exactly when that was. So the Penn State firing happens, where is it? Okay, so he gets fired after the Northwestern game. That's October 11th. Alabama goes okay. So he gets fired after that. So the very next week is the Tennessee game, which is the game that they played their best game of the year. But then the rest of the season, that's when they started to fall apart a little bit. I mean, look, during the playoffs, they didn't fall apart like tremendously. They're still a playoff team. But still, you do wonder whether or not that 6-week period eventually, maybe that first week it didn't really matter, but longer it went, all of a sudden you're hearing things that has to be a factor. So you got the running game isn't good. You got the head coach deal isn't good. I think those are a couple of bad things. And you know how harsh, look, the average sports fan deals with it in their own way, in their own town, with their own team. And a lot of the times there's only, hey, you know what? We got a life. This is sports. We get into it. We're passionate about it. But, we do other things with our lives. And that's just the way it goes. And Alabama, with their football teams, that is their life. That's everything. And I'm not putting them down over it. I'm just saying that's how serious Alabama football is. So for us, if we're, Kalen DeBoer, somebody that might be the head coach somewhere else, and you have a fan base that is not exactly on Kalen DeBoer's side anyway. And they were not happy with the season last season, not making the playoffs. They were not happy losing to Florida State to open the season. And then all of a sudden, they start to wither late in the season, win ugly games. They lose to Oklahoma. They have the Auburn game that went down to the wire. Then they're hearing the rumors, and are we going to get to the playoffs? And there are a lot of people who still believe that if Alabama did not make the playoffs, that DeBoer would have been gone. Nobody knows. I don't think that's the case, but nobody knows. And nobody knows about this either because, hey, Kalen DeBoer, maybe you believe everything he says, and maybe he'll be right. Or maybe Alabama will lose on Friday night, and he'll be the next coach of Michigan on Saturday. I tend to think that he's going to be where he is. The thing, though, that I'm kind of surprised that he's dug in, but I really respect it because what he has gone through this year and what he's going to go through after losing the SEC championship game, in the manner in which he lost it, that could have been an easy way out. Because he could still have decided that, who knows, maybe he could have had a relationship. I'm going to go to this team, but I'm going to coach Alabama. You never know. But I really do believe that, and again, this is why I respect it, because it's not easy. And, he put a lot of effort into, when you put that effort into the recruiting and you want to see it come through, and also he knew what he was getting himself involved with here. So he knew what would happen if they lost in the way that they've lost, even though he barely missed the playoffs last year and made the playoffs this year. It's not like he's had two bad seasons. He almost had two playoff seasons in 2 years. And we're dealing with a completely different system. I don't care what you say. Yes, would Nick Saban succeed? Nick Saban would succeed anywhere. But he would be just like, say, Kirby Smart or any other great coach today. He would be winning, but it would not be as easy as it was for him just a few years ago. And so DeBoer is left dealing with that Saban never had to deal with. But again, I just think that this is one of those things that could be a distraction. Now, Alabama, let's get back to maybe some more important details. Alabama as a road favorite this year. 0-2, it should be 0-2 against the spread. And in those games, they included the loss of Florida State, their only loss as a road favorite. And they beat two non-bowl teams, South Carolina and Auburn, by 7 points each. Okay, so as a road favorite, they have not been very good. Now, this is only 1.5. So, they win. Then who cares about the number? Oh, maybe it's 1.5. They win by 1, right? Who cares, right? They won. For Oklahoma, as I mentioned, big situation for Brent Venables. This is going to really tell us whether or not he can coach and be the guy, because you've got a great opportunity here. You're playing a team that's on the ropes, and you're at home. And we know this is also important. Remember, the home team last year in the first round, as we mentioned yesterday, won all 4 games straight up ATS last year in the first round. And another reason I like them is Alabama's kind of having that slide towards the end of the season. Yet Oklahoma has won 4 straight to end the season. All 4 teams are bowl teams, including the Alabama win on the road. And if you look at a couple other factors over the last couple of months, just take a look at the schedules for both teams. Oklahoma's had a much tougher schedule. Oklahoma State played a typical tough SEC schedule down the stretch. They've had losses to Texas. We all know that's the first game where Mateer came back. We shouldn't have played, but lost to Texas. And they also lost to Ole Miss. Those are their 2 losses. Quality losses. Also, in the matchup, all time, Oklahoma 5-1 against Alabama. The dog in the series has never dropped a cover. 6-0 in the series. So there's a lot for me, a lot to go with here with Oklahoma. I also, even though he threw the 3 interceptions, like I said, I like the fact that he threw for over 300 yards against a good defense. That is what I want to see from Mateer. I want to see that, even though, again, there were some mistakes, there were some positive plays. You've got to be able to get that passing game going. And Mateer is one of those quarterbacks that they brought him here for a reason, to make the playoffs and to do something in the playoffs. And I think Oklahoma's got a chance to do that. If they can beat Alabama, I do believe that they are going to cause problems for Indiana. Next up, 12 o'clock Saturday, Miami, Texas A&M. As I mentioned, check out the link in the description of this video where you can see the interviews I did with both of our analysts from Texas A&M and Miami. And one of the reasons I wanted them on was because, as I've been saying for the past week, these are my top 2 long shot plays to win the national championship. Both of these teams. My original pick to win the national championship over the last 5 or 6 weeks was Notre Dame. That was my pick. I was very confident about it. I felt great going. I thought I was going to the playoffs. I had good money on Notre Dame. I was feeling good. I had all the confidence in the world, and then they did what they did. So I've had to go back and re-examine everything, which I don't like to do, but I did. Of course I did. And look, these would have been my long shots anyway. But now that Notre Dame's not there, I think they have a much better chance. Of course, you have to deal with Indiana and Ohio State, but I do believe that those are vulnerable top seeds. And that's why I think these 2 teams are, talent-wise, they're right up there with Ohio State and Indiana. I think, and the reason I'm taking Texas A&M to win the game and to make it all the way to the championship is because I just think that they have a little bit more. They've shown me a little bit more too. You've got an SEC battle-tested team against an ACC battle-tested team. And I just, look, Miami has kind of pulled to Toledo. They've won their last 4 by a 151-41 margin. They had the loss to SMU and a loss that they shouldn't have had. And I mean, it was a bad way to lose on a penalty that gave SMU second life, and SMU wins. But since the loss, as Gary said, they've kind of opened things up a little bit more on offense, and that's been a big benefit to them. They have really good talent. They have a freshman star wide receiver. Fletcher is a good, solid running back, and they have an experienced quarterback in Beck. One of the knocks on Miami Cristobal is he doesn't win the big game. And that is one thing. Again, that's one of the reasons why I'm siding with Texas A&M here. But it's also a reason why if Miami can win this game, then all of a sudden, now Cristobal, he can win these big games. And maybe this, the way the playoffs work, especially at this level with these young kids, man, and this is one of the reasons I'm against Alabama. Confidence is so important in any sport for an individual and a team. I don't see any confidence at all in Alabama. And when we're talking about these teams, the winner of this game will have a lot of confidence, and they will know what they would have accomplished here in winning a good game against a good team. And then they'll go into the matchup with Ohio State, and they'll be the dog, and they'll be expected to lose. But if they can win that game, so we're basically saying, look, just 25. I think Miami's 25-1, Texas A&M 20-1. I'm putting money on both. The winner gets to play Ohio State. You could, if you win that game, you will look at yourself. You'll look at the bracket. You're now in the semis, And you're going to say to yourself, we just beat like maybe the best team in college football. So that means we can beat anybody. And it's true. Which is why if they can, which whoever wins this game, win. So, because it's not, I'm not going to say, it's like, well, you're going to win this game and you're going to win that game. So it's like, you get what I'm saying. The fact is that you'll have a winner out of this matchup going into the Ohio State game, basically needing just to win one game for the confidence to be like, we can win the national championship, which I believe they will be able to. So that's the reason why I think they're a live dog, either one of these teams. And that's why I will feel that way on Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, as long as I see it. Like if I see some 20-17 lackluster performance, hey, one of these teams won, but there were 3 turnovers and there was less than 500 yards of total offense for both teams with a lot of firepower. And yeah, it was it's like nobody wanted to win, but someone had to. Well, I'm not taking that winner against Ohio State. Then I'm not going to do it. But I don't believe that's what we're going to see. I believe we're going to see a really good football game. I believe we're going to see 2 teams with Miami, the way they ended their season. And yes, did they play mostly cupcakes? Yes. But still, they're still playing their best football of the year. And they've got weapons. They also have a very talented defensive front, maybe the most talented in all of college football. And if there's another team that has maybe an argument, it's Texas A&M. Both of these teams are loaded up front. But what separates, in my opinion, A&M from Miami are several things. A&M's got the home game. You also have A&M's offense. You look at it, and just check out. They have got these playmakers that not many teams have. As a matter of fact, I think they're the most, outside of Ohio State, I think they have the most dynamic group of skill position players in all of college football. Let me just see what they're ranked here, because I haven't even looked at it. Where are they? 34 here. See, isn't that interesting? There's Ohio State. Ohio State's 26th in pass offense, and A&M is 34th. And yet, what both of those 2 teams have at wide receiver and running back, of course, is second to none, except each other. So here are the receivers for Texas A&M. So they go through. They can go. Actually, yeah, they can go. Bethel Roman really started to come on, but these 2 right here, Craver and Concepcion. I mean, Concepcion broke out as a true freshman at NC State, then and looked like a superstar right off the bat. Then and look, he's not a big guy, and I think that's the only reason why he's not going to be like a top 10 draft pick when he comes out, but. He'll be a top pick. He'll be a high pick, and he'll be a very good player at the next level. But so can Mario Craver, who's just a sophomore. And look at these 3. Look at the averages here. And that's important too, because if you take a look at Marcel Reed in the beginning of the season, there was big debate because he comes in last year, he plays, and it looks like, okay, maybe they got something here. But for the most part, he struggled. He was too inexperienced, and he was not ready. And then it was a lot of hope that this offseason, if they can get this kid, it was a high recruit, if they can get this kid ready to go, and he can give Texas A&M everything that he's capable of, they could be a very interesting team to watch, a very dangerous team. And that's exactly what he did. He's had a very, very good year for someone that is a first-time week 1 starter. And this is the thing that impresses me. You're almost 9 yards per attempt, per attempt. And he's up to 244 a game. And he's also capable of running the football. Where is he? Yeah, he's got almost 500 yards, 6 touchdowns, and that's what I like. Because last year, what was he last year? Last year, a little bit a yard less here, but as you can see, he had more yards, more touchdowns and yards rushing last year. Just a little bit more, but his overall game is, and even though the stats aren't mind-blowingly different, the fact is that it's like night and day of what he's become this year compared to what he was doing last year. And that's the thing that that I felt had to happen if they were going to be a national championship contender, and it happened. And so that's why I'm excited about Texas A&M, because they've got a dual threat quarterback. And I forgot to show you too that they've got a really good running game. So much so that that we even got to see E.J. Smith, Emmett's son. So you got Owens, Moss, and even E.J. Smith started to play a little bit down the stretch. But Le'Veon Moss, he's the guy. And when we talked to Olin, he said that it looks good that Le'Veon Moss could be ready to play on Saturday afternoon. And he's their best running back. So as you can see, he's missed about half the season. He was the number 1 running back last year, as you can see. He's got that 6.3 average last year. This year, where is he? There he is. Okay, so only 6 games. But Owens is a quality back, and E.J. Smith can give you, and then also special teams. Because keep in mind, Concepcion. I mean, this guy can, look at that, 2 return punts for a touchdown. He's got a rushing touchdown. He's got 9 touchdowns receiving. There are playmakers across the board here for Texas A&M. And what I'm also worried about with Miami is that, sort of like I was saying with Oregon, which we'll get to, their top receivers are freshmen. And so it's asking a lot for, and one of their other fine young running backs is also a freshman. It's just asking a lot for inexperienced type players at age-wise to really help you out over the long haul to try to win a national championship. But for Miami, the reason I'm taking Miami as well as Texas A&M is because even though I like Texas A&M to win the game, if Miami is able to win this game and they win a good game, and it's a convincing game, and they win the game, I don't know, 30-27, it's a great game, and they really put it together, that all of a sudden would give them so much confidence that that's why I think they're going to be a very dangerous team. But I'm taking Texas A&M. This is a team that beat LSU by 24 and Missouri by 21 on the road. I just told you about the Alabama 20-9 win against LSU at home. And yet here's a Texas A&M team that, even though they did not have the toughest schedule in the SEC, these were still SEC teams, bowl teams. And to win in a convincing fashion like that, don't forget, also on the road, the win at Notre Dame. But what everybody wants to talk, the only thing everybody wants to talk about with Texas A&M going into the playoffs is, they just got beat up by Texas. Texas ran all over them. And yes, is that a problem for Texas A&M? Yeah, I'm not going to hide the fact that they're not when you match them up with some of these other top teams, that's the thing that they don't have. They're not like a top defensive team. Where are they defensively? But one of the things they do have defensively, where are they? There they are, 19. It's still a respectable defense, and they've got a really good pass rush. Where are they? Let me see. Where are they against the run? Because, again, as I said, they got blitzed up by Texas last time out. Statistically, where are they? So here they are, 38th. So let's see. Log. Here it is. Okay. So this is what everybody remembers. They gashed Texas. Texas gashed them 218 yards. And that's the last thing they remember. And they gave up 268 to Arkansas and 207 to Missouri. But we know Love is a great running back, and they only gave it 136 here. And look, I'm not. If Texas A&M had a top 10 defense and a top 5 rushing defense, maybe they would be undefeated. But this was a team that was undefeated all season until their final game against their rival. Who was the last team to lose to their rival as a favorite? Matter of fact, let me see here. Just want to double check. Let's see. Oh. Wait, why am I seeing that? Okay, just want to make sure. So what was the last team to do that? Just from your recollection, and they weren't undefeated, Ohio State, but they go all the way to the end of the season. They're on a roll. They're one of the best teams in college football. They're a heavy favorite to beat Michigan, the biggest spread loss that they've ever had in the series probably. And yet they're able to, after they lose to their arch rivals, they're able to move on and make the run and win a national championship. And that's exactly what Texas A&M needs to do. They lost to their arch rival. So my point of that is Ohio State was what, 19-point favorite in that game? Texas A&M was like a 2-point favorite. Okay, so it was a lot more embarrassing for Ohio State to lose the game to Michigan last year than it was for Texas A&M to lose to Texas, even though a lot of people are trying to embarrass Texas A&M by giving up over 200 yards rushing. Much more embarrassing to Ohio State last year. And it did not affect them, and we'll see if it affects Texas A&M. Next up, we go to, actually, you know what? Let me go here. Next up, we go to the later games, 3:30, Ole Miss and Tulane, the two blowout games. And look, we've gone over this before with Tulane. This has not been a good spot for them. And even Ole Miss. I mean, if there's one team in the SEC they would have liked to have avoided, it would be Ole Miss. Not only did they lose to Ole Miss this year, 45-10, the yardage was about minus 250, favoring, of course, Ole Miss. Matter of fact, they were losing 45-3 when they gave up a garbage touchdown. Ole Miss did. Retzlaff, who's had a very solid season for Tulane, had 56 yards passing. Chambliss for Ole Miss had over 300 yards passing and 100 yards rushing. They also beat Tulane in 2023 at Tulane as a 13-point road favorite. Ole Miss won 37-20. And then 2 years prior in 2021 in Ole Miss, the Rebels beat Tulane 61-21 as a 14-point home favorite. So in the 3 games they've played them, they've beaten them 143-51. And so if there's a team that is going to get big point spread, 17 and a half, that's worthy of that based on this matchup, it's Ole Miss. Now, everybody, see, this is another comparison to Ohio State. Ohio State, if you look at the situation where, they lose to Michigan and there was a lot of doubt about whether or not they could respond. Could they respond and how big that was? No, it's a different respond for Ole Miss, but it's sort of like the same thing because a lot of people gave up on Ohio State last year, but a lot of people also felt, well, I don't know. Maybe they're going to lose to Tennessee, but maybe they're also going to kind of use it in their favor. And if they do, then watch out. And the watch out happened. Now, I don't know if this will happen to Ole Miss because they're not Ohio State. They don't have that reputation. This is a first big moment for Ole Miss to be in a playoffs, and so there is newness to it, and they're a heavy home favorite. So there's a lot of expectations in a way, even though there are still a lot of people who on the other side, and this is why I think it's a good thing if you want to take Ole Miss and give up the 17, is their mindset is definitely, there's a lot of people doubting us. We can't win now because our coach is gone. And we're going to find out how they respond. And, they don't have to play another SEC team. If they win, they'll play Georgia next. So I think that benefits them greatly. They're also at home. I think that does benefit them greatly. So I think these are going to be really good for them. I think that the only way this is a negative is if, look, I don't know how they're going to respond. Nobody does. But they're much more talented than Tulane. So they're the better team. They got better players. They're at home. They have the history against the program. And it doesn't mean if they win and win big that they're going to win the national championship. I'm not saying that. And out of the 3 long shots I'm taking, they're definitely the one. I'm also going to put a few bucks on them to win the championship because, look, if Lane Kiffin was here, people would put Ole Miss in the running to win a national championship. And they would only be, and it would be like 12-1. So why not at double the price? I know the coach isn't there, but at double the price, I think it's worth it. I don't think they're going to win the national championship. They might even lose right away against Georgia next week. But I think they're worth it because they got the talent. And maybe this is also what they just need because it can maybe take some pressure away from them. That not just because, we're not supposed to win. But in that respect, it's like, hey, we, like I said, we have something to prove. And it could take a lot of the pressure off. Because they're more than likely at some point would have been pressure on Lane Kiffin, even though they got there, on Lane Kiffin to keep proving and to prove that you can do this, to go up against Georgia, to prove it again. Well, you don't have to prove it anymore because he's not here, and everybody's going to expect you to lose to Georgia. So we'll see. I want to see how they play here, though. Same thing with Texas A&M and Miami. I want to see how they play. I expect they're going to win. I expect they're going to cover. We'll see if they can do that, and we'll see if they can do it in really good fashion. So, John Sumrall, he'll be the new head coach at Florida, but he is going to coach the game, and he is also going to coach against Ole Miss, with Florida at some point. So that'll be something. Will Hall, by the way, takes over as the head coach at Tulane next year. I don't understand this hire myself. He was a successful Division II head coach, but did not do well at all at Southern Miss. That was a bad program. That's the reason why everybody had these high accolades for Huff, because Hall did so poorly there. So Huff comes in, and Southern Miss is a win away from being in the championship game all of a sudden, and he gets the Memphis job. And then Will Hall gets the head coach of Tulane. But that's next year. And then Oregon and James Madison. And in this one, this will be the late one at 7:30 Eastern. My preseason group of 5 number 1 team, James Madison, made it to the playoffs. I know they didn't make it the way I thought they were, but hey, they made it anyway. Bob Chesney's going to UCLA when it's all said and done, and Billy Napier will take over at James Madison. Of course, we know they've only played one Power 4 team, and that was a 28-14 loss at Louisville earlier in the season. There's a really good angle trend in this game for either James Madison or Oregon in a positive way. You want to find out what that trend is, you got to get the bowl guide from Mark. And again, you get it at playbooksports.com. Okay, and you can get the link in the description of this video. Now, couple things. First of all, Oregon last year loses the first game they played, the quarterfinal game, to Ohio State. So they're looking to get a W in the playoffs. So it'd be very important for them. I'm sure Lanning wants to get that ugly taste off. And hey, let's get a playoff win here, no matter what the spread is. Both of their assistant coaches, top assistants, will be leaving when the playoffs are done. Their offensive coordinator will be the head coach at Kentucky. Their defensive coordinator will be the head coach at Cal. So that shows you a lot, and that's a problem for Lanning in Oregon next year. As far as this year, they're not a pick of mine to win a national championship because I think they're too young. I've said that all season, and I don't think that they're going to be able to navigate through tough teams to win a national championship. And do it, especially 3 times against Power 4 teams. But I do think they'll handle James Madison. There's some warning signs about James Madison. Even though they've had some big blowout and convincing wins, they've also, as I mentioned before, at Washington State, they were losing to Washington State in the fourth quarter. They had the game what was the other game? There was another game. I forget which one it was. I know we mentioned the game against against Louisiana, when they won that game by just 10 points. And they won a few games like that. Like I said, they didn't blow out everybody. They beat Marshall. Oh, that's right. That was the game. They lost the yards battle at Marshall. And in that game, they had a late touchdown that they shouldn't have. It was like the Alabama touchdown against Vanderbilt. That game was actually like very, very close throughout. They were very fortunate to win that game. And that one again, even that was on the road, but still, that was a Marshall team that was a decent team, but I wouldn't put them at the top of the Sun Belt like Old Dominion. And that coincidentally was one of their better games. They just annihilated Old Dominion in that one, which was a big surprise, but they did. They also went to Georgia State, one of the worst teams in the Sun Belt, and won 14-7. Okay. And he had less than 300 yards of total offense. So they've had some of those games. Yes. Did they beat a team by 48? Yes. Did they beat Old Dominion by almost 40 points? Yes. So they had some of those. Did Coastal Carolina, did they annihilate them? Yes. But remember the Troy game, the championship game against Troy? That was close. The score was misleading because the quarterback got hurt and it just kind of deflated the team, and they had a couple late scores. But that game late in the third quarter, I believe it was, might have even been early fourth, that was a 1-possession game. And they were, a 23-point favorite in the game. So there are just too many of those games. And then, look, the Louisville, the game was a 14-point game. And Louisville's not Oregon. And this one's at Oregon. And going to Oregon is not an easy place to play, especially if you haven't been there before. So this is asking way too much for James Madison. I don't see it. I think this is going to be a very high-scoring game. So what's the total? See, if the total is 47, then I believe what they believe is going to happen is Oregon is going to win 35-10. That's why they got 47. But I think James Madison will score, and I think Oregon's also going to score. So I'm looking at this as more. I'm definitely going over, but I'm not a totals guy. But I would definitely go over here. I think I think the only way this is not an over is if James Madison scores 3 points. They don't score in double figures, probably. That's it. And I'd be surprised by that because, again, James Madison has shown the ability to have, a big offensive game. Now, look, they're a running team. They can throw the ball, but they're a running team. Let's see. What's their rush offense? 5th in the country. All right. And where's Oregon's rush defense? Let's see. Where are they? 20th. So that's not bad. So, so I think James Madison will be able to do something, but Oregon would just be too much for him, and I'll look at something along the lines of like, again, if I was going with the total, which I'm not good at, I would do something like, I don't know, 48 to 48 to 24, something like that. Oregon covers. Okay, so that's it for first round action. Now, let's go to the brackets as we close out. And these will be I got to make my final predictions here for the preseason preview. So again, like I said, when I'll take a look at these first round games, and I might change my mind, but my preseason bracket preview, I'm going to go with Oregon, obviously. I'm going 2 for 2 with the home teams this year, just like last year. I'm going all the home teams. So I'm taking Oregon, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M to win and cover. So I'm taking Texas Tech over Oregon. I'm taking Oklahoma over Indiana. And you might say, well, I'm crazy. If you weren't with me yesterday, I pointed this out. Because this is something that, no matter who they play, this is something that probably will be brought up. Remember who the number 1 team was last year in the Rose Bowl? Oregon. And they did not win that game. Now, they played a team that they had already beaten, so that's definitely different. But the number 1 Big Ten champion that played in the Rose Bowl lost the Rose Bowl. And again, I think if it's Alabama, I'll take Indiana. But if it's Oklahoma, and it depends what I see from Oklahoma. If I see a good performance from John Mateer, then I'm sticking with them. But if I see an ugly win for Oklahoma against Alabama and Mateer does not have a good game, then I'll probably take Indiana. But I'm going into this saying Mateer will play well and they'll pull off the upset. And it's because I just do not like the Big Ten this year compared to the last few years. I think there's a big difference, a major difference in the last couple of years. Ohio State and Michigan, the last 2 years to this year. Major difference talent-wise. I think these 2 Big Ten teams are vulnerable. I think they're just as good as any playoff team. Any of them. I think there's no major difference. The only difference I see, like with Alabama, is that they're not playing well. But if they beat Oklahoma, then depending on how they beat them, maybe they'll be able to give Indiana a game. But all of these teams, whether it's Ohio State or Indiana, I think it's very even. And therefore, and I also don't like the matchup. Again, if it's Alabama, I'm probably going to go with Indiana. But I don't think Oklahoma is a good matchup for Indiana. I think there'll be pressure on Indiana. Pressure. There was no pressure on Indiana against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. They were the dog. No pressure. They will now be dealing with pressure. They are the number 1 team in the nation. They are undefeated. They have not lost yet. And they've never been in this position before. This is not a program. Yes, did it get their feet wet last year? And that is the important thing. No question about it. Very important that they did play last year. I think they'd be much more vulnerable if they had not this year. But they did get that last year. And maybe that's what they need. Again, maybe if they and look, can Indiana and Ohio State win the national championship? Maybe they play each other. It's a rematch. Absolutely. But I see no value whatsoever in taking two teams or even Georgia that are all short prices to win the national championship. And I do not see a major difference in talent between those teams and some of the others where I'm getting much more value. There's no value with these three teams. Even though Georgia's getting twice as much, the reason why there's no value with Georgia, I'm only getting 5-1. And Georgia will have to beat Ole Miss twice. Then they got to beat Ohio State just to get to the, again, I'm going chalk, just to get to the championship game. And then they'd have to beat Indiana, the number one team in the country, undefeated. And I'm getting 5-1. That's all you're giving me? Come on now. I'll keep that money there. This is where you start to get, okay, I'm not saying it's great value, but okay. I mean, now we're getting decent odds, or Texas Tech, Oregon. And then here is, without question, the big value. Texas A&M, Miami, Ole Miss. I do not think Oklahoma has what it takes to win a national championship. I think they can win a couple of games, but I don't think they can win a national championship. I don't think they have enough offense to do that. Unless, of course, Mateer just lights it up. And where was he? Where was his stats early in the season? Because even though, here's Oklahoma. Let me see. Here he is. Okay. So early in the season, he started looking like the real deal. And he had the big, look at that, almost 400 yards to an FCS team. It's a nice start. Then he has a really good game against a quality opponent, Michigan. Comes right back, easy win against an easy team. Then Auburn, very good defensive team, puts up good numbers. And then the injury happens. Okay, so this John Mateer, if Oklahoma can get this John Mateer, then watch out. So at 50-1, oh yeah, I mean, it's sort of like Ole Miss in a way, as far as I'm concerned. It's like, I don't really think Ole Miss will win a national championship. I don't really think Oklahoma will win, but I'm getting 25 and 50-1 to win with this type of quality. And look at it this way too. Taking a look at the bracket for both of these types of long shots. Let's just say just those two particular, because they're in different brackets. So just like I see with Ole Miss has a different, they got a tougher road, I think, because they would have to potentially beat 3-2 just to get to the championship game. So to win a national championship, they might have to beat 3-2-1. Okay. Oklahoma, they got one game. Let's just get it all over with. They beat one. And now, who knows? Maybe you're playing 4, maybe you're playing 5. And then you're in the championship game. And hey, what happens if there is an upset here? How do you know there won't be? Or, okay, it could be Georgia. Could be A&M. Could be Miami. I don't think it'll be Ole Miss. Could be. But there are possibilities there, meaning this is a much bigger. So you're getting 50-1 with Oklahoma, 25-1 with Ole Miss. But honestly, Oklahoma has probably got the better road ahead. Now they're 50-1 though, because Ole Miss gets they get a bye basically here. Oklahoma may lose on Friday night. And I think that's why you're getting double the price. So I and the good thing is when you're getting 50-1, I don't have to put up a lot, but I would do it. This is the only team I wouldn't right here. And I wouldn't do Oregon either, just because of the fact that, like I said, I just think they're too young. They're more than capable. Absolutely more than capable. And maybe they pull off a Tennessee. Dylan Gabriel and all these other studs and guys that went to the NFL last year. Just like, hey, Peyton Manning and Tennessee, and they didn't win. And I can't believe we didn't win a national championship with Peyton Manning. And then as soon as he graduates the very next year, T. Martin comes out and wins a national championship. Could happen at Oregon. Never know. But I'd rather take Texas Tech. I just think they're too young. It was still a veteran team that won. It was still a veteran, battle-tested group. This is still a lot of transfers and young players, and I just think it's a different era. Comparing him to Tennessee is what I'm saying. Okay. So I'm going to have Oklahoma and Texas Tech in the semis, and I've got Texas Tech in the championship game. I just think that Texas Tech, they've got a tremendous defense. They have, as good as a front seven as there is in college football. They got studs up there. One of the best linebackers in the country. They've got a veteran quarterback. They're just a very good football team. They are for real. And I just think they've got more in them than just beating Oregon. I just do. And look, they're not battle tested more than Indiana. I'm not trying to say that. They're not. But hey, they're 25-1. So it's not like I'm not 25-1. They're 8-1. So they're getting almost double, more than double than Indiana. So that's the way it should be. Indiana's more battle tested. They deserve to be. Now, I'm not saying they should be 2-1 because I don't think they should be. I would rather see Indiana. Obviously, honestly, I think they should be more like 5-1 or 6-1, just like Ohio State should be, and all these other teams should be moved back a little bit. Maybe Texas Tech should be 12-1 or 14-1. But yeah, they should be more than double of Indiana. I got no problem with that. But matchup wise, if they play each other in the semifinals, I don't think there's a big difference at all from either one of these teams. No difference at all. I think the only big difference is that Mendoza is a more talented quarterback prospect than McGuire. And I'm not even going to say that much of a better college quarterback, because I don't think Mendoza is that much more better of a college quarterback than McGuire. I just think Mendoza is just, a better NFL prospect. That's all. Meaning Texas Tech has got a quarterback that has he's got just the kind of qualities you want. If you're thinking about, do you have a championship caliber quarterback? Texas Tech has that. So I think Indiana, even though I like who they're going to play based on this matchups. I mean, based on, who it could have been. Who could have been Miami and Texas A&M, but you're getting Alabama, Oklahoma. Even though that's the case, like I said, if they play Oklahoma and then let's say they play Texas Tech, if that's their two games that they're going to be playing, then those are going to be tough because they're going to be going up two of the best defensive teams in the country. And Indiana is also a very good defensive team. The interesting thing is between those three teams, if let's just say Oklahoma beats Alabama, between those three teams, they are so similar. They're all three very good defensive teams with all good talented quarterbacks. This is why, and in my mind, I just don't see a big difference. I don't. And I think Indiana is where they belong, but I just think I don't think they're look. I have no problem taking chalk. I have no problem going with favorites to win when I feel, oh yeah, I mean, of course I'm going to take them. I'm not stupid. Of course I'm going to go down that road. But when I don't see that big a difference, then I'm sorry. I just, especially when I don't see experience, of championship experience, championship coach, championship players, history. When I don't see all of that, and I'm not getting any value, and I have a team that hasn't been battle tested, like many other teams have been battle tested before, a lot more than Indiana has, then yeah, I think especially this season and the era we live in college football with the parity and the openness, I'm just, I would have to be somebody that liked Indiana when the season began and was all in on Indiana. That was my pick. That was my sleeper to win the Big Ten. That's my pick midseason to win the Big Ten, to win the national championship. Great. Then if that was me, that'd be different. But I just never got that. I just never did. I just always looked at a team that was very well coached, had a very talented quarterback. They have a solid defense, good players, good team, very good team. But in this era of college football, they're just not elite. Okay. So moving on. I have Texas Tech, even if they play Indiana. I have them here in the championship game. I have Ole Miss against Georgia. I'm taking Georgia to win. I've got Texas A&M, Ohio State, and I'm taking Texas A&M. I'm putting both Big Ten teams down. Even though I will say that if I had to pick one of the Big Ten teams to lose and I have to pick one to move on, I'm picking Ohio State to move on. So, but I'm taking Texas A&M, and it's going to be Texas A&M, Georgia, and then I'm taking Texas A&M against Texas Tech. So that's going to be my bracket picks right here. And who knows? Maybe it winds up being 1 versus 2, like I said. Because where was last year's? I had it here. Let me see if I could find it. Okay. Almost forgot something there. Let's see. 2024 college. Oh, wait. Cancel. Yeah, I don't want to be here when I do that. Come on. What are you doing that for? Move this over. Okay. 2024 college. There it is. Okay. Let's see. Nope. I don't want that one. It's too big. Went through this yesterday. Yeah. Let's just do this one. The Wikipedia one, because it's really small, but I know I can fit it on the screen. Okay. So I'm going to close by just going over a refresher of last year's bracket. The only time we've ever had a 12-team playoff. Okay. So here we have this. Okay. So remember, now I know they changed things around. They no automatic championship team went to the Final Four, got a bye. I mean, which actually turned into be a stupid decision because of that we don't have Notre Dame in the playoffs. So it turned out to be a stupid decision. And we should have had Duke. Duke should be there, not James Madison. Even though James Madison was my preseason. And remember this, nobody had James Madison. Not many people had James Madison as a group of 5 pick. It was either your American champion or Boise State. Nobody was going to pick a Sun Belt team to be the national champion, so a group of 5 pick. But the point is that even though I had them there, look, I think Duke deserved it over James Madison. Okay, still, I think Notre Dame should have been there. I'd still have Alabama. I still have Texas, Vanderbilt, all those teams over James Madison, of course. But hey, if James Madison's going to get in, then I'd because Duke wasn't highly ranked enough, I think that's wrong. And it's wrong because it's simple. Duke played a Power 4 schedule week in and week out. James Madison didn't have to do that. It's one thing if you want to have a group of 5 representative. That's fine. I have no problem. I think that's great. I think that's the way it should be. But the second group of 5 team who did and over the ACC champion, how do you know James Madison wouldn't have 4 losses? Or whatever Duke had, 5 losses. I don't know what Duke had. Who knows if they had Duke's schedule? Nobody knows that. All right. Anyway, my point. Semifinals. 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 over 7. Okay? Now, you can say what you want about the one. There's only one major difference. Okay? One. Let's see. And that is you had the how good was Boise last year? Man, Ashton Genty sure was awesome last year. It's too bad he's on the Raiders, huh? They were ranked. Oh, they didn't have him there? I got to look at UNLV. 10th. So Boise was ranked 10th in the championship game. Okay. Anyway. So I'm not even going to count Boise. That's, let's say, Boise or Arizona State. That's 2 teams. Okay. Oregon was the first ranked team. And I'm not even going to count Georgia because Georgia had a quarterback problem. Okay. But Oregon was the number 1 team and they got eliminated. And Penn State was the Big Ten runner-up. So they were really, what were they, sixth seed. So is that pretty much like Oregon? They've got the seeds here. Oregon's 5th seed. So it's pretty similar. And yet Penn State made their way all the way to the semifinals and lost a very close game to Notre Dame, who was the 7th seed. So even if Notre Dame was considered like the 5th seed, let's say Penn State's the 4 seed, and because, we have a couple, Arizona State and Boise State thing in here. So let's just say we're going to give a couple spots. It's still 5 against 6 in the championship game with 4 against 5 and say 5 against 6. And here, that's pretty much like Ole Miss, Oregon, Texas Tech. I mean, Texas A&M is right there. Because realistically, I mean, 7 and like, let's see, Texas A&M is 7. And so I have 7 against 4. What was it? It was 7 losing to 8. So we'll find out at the end of this playoff run if the changes are going to make that big of a drastic improvement as well. Will we see chalk more in these playoffs? Of course, we're going to see a lot more chalk this year because of the fact that we don't have Boise State or Arizona State in the semis, but I mean in the quarters. But how much chalk? Is it going to be completely chalked? Are we going to see, 1 against 1 through 4 in the semis? We'll see. Very possible, because it's all possible. But I think statistically speaking, because any of these teams can win at any week, I think to expect 1 versus 4 in the semis, that would be surprising to me. And that's what I'm betting against. And we'll see if that works out or not for me.